Violence, blood, and tears were all Pamela Anderson had to deal with throughout her marriage to the famous musician Tommy Lee. For years, the only thing the public saw was the sex bomb on the red carpet. But behind closed doors was a nightmare that ruined her life and her job. What do you think of this marriage? Is it a crazy love story or a dark scandal? Hollywood's biggest sex symbol has finally taken off the mask. And the awful truth is enough to make everyone in the globe cringe. Pamela Anderson quickly got into Tommy Lee's orbit. And a pull that sent them both into a bad cycle. The Mötley Crüe drummer jumped into Pamela's personal life in late 1994, after only a few brief meetings. The two got married on the beach in Cancun 6 weeks later. He wore swimming trunks and she wore a white bikini. They didn't get diamond rings or go through a lot of formalities. Instead, they tattooed each other's names on their skin to show how committed they were. People said it was love at first sight, but in reality, it was a mess. Life as a married couple swiftly deteriorated into a succession of fights, drugs, and parties. That was the one time I ever really loved Pamela. I later admitted it, but it was also the worst thing that ever happened to me. The most unexpected thing that happened was when someone stole a private tape from their villa's safe. The holiday video, which was meant to be a keepsake, went viral throughout the world, starting a time when sex recordings circulated online faster than ever before. Tommy thought it was an invasion of privacy, but Pamela was the one who hurt the most. The stories about the tape hurt her reputation as a rising actress and made it harder for her to find work. She once claimed, "I didn't just lose control of my body. I lost the job I had worked so hard to get." Pamela got pregnant with her first child during the media uproar. She had a hard time keeping things normal for her small family while dealing with the mounting strain of what people thought. The rumors kept spreading around her, and their relationship got worse and worse. Tommy became envious and domineering, and Pamela was mentally worn out. All of this made her want to leave numerous times, but her blind devotion kept her there. Pamela was in despair because of the constant fighting, partying, and arguing. The press still said they were the best couple of the decade on the outside. Pamela felt stuck on the inside, though. In her memoir, she writes, "I thought my life would end inside that house." Brandon and Dylan were born one after the other, and they were a rare bright point in the bleak days. But things didn't alter very much. Pamela simply tried harder to keep up the picture of a happy family when the kids were around, but the tension got worse in reality. Pamela's melancholy, tiredness, and continual worry grew over time as a result of the insults, tense conflicts, and long days of not knowing what would happen next. People who were there afterwards said it was a time of love and destruction. Pamela once remarked a single yet frightening sentence, "I loved him so much that I lost myself." That sentence showed what a relationship that seemed passionate was really like. But in reality, it was just a cycle of love, emotional abuse, and fatigue. When Pamela labeled the marriage a nightmare, it not only showed how bad things were at the time, but it also summed up the whole agonizing experience of being a star caught up in love and fame. It was the base of the collapse that was about to happen, which would make things even worse. The scars, the violence, and the divorce. If the first few years of the marriage were rocky, a shocking event was what really changed things. In 1998, Tommy Lee did something violent in Pamela Anderson's own home when she was holding her young kid. Lee was arrested and put on trial for this crime. He was given a sentence that sent him to prison for 6 months. Pamela then filed for divorce right away. This was the moment that broke the facade of family that she had been trying to keep up. During the court case, Pamela was the center of attention, but this time it wasn't for good reasons. The press covered the trial in great detail, going over the case and stressing how precarious her condition was. The woman, who was previously labeled a global sex symbol, now looked like a real victim who had been hurt both physically and mentally. Pamela demonstrated an extraordinary level of determination in court, saying that there was no going back. There was a fight over custody just after the divorce. Both wanted to be in charge of Brandon and Dylan, which led to a lot of unpleasant court appearances. Pamela was worried that Tommy Lee's flashy way of living might have an effect on the kids, while Lee tried to establish himself. Pamela worked hard for years to get to this point, but the final decision was to give them shared custody. Pamela had to deal with both legal problems and her health getting worse. She found out that she had gotten hepatitis C via sharing tattoo needles with Lee when they were talking about their history. When this news got out, it startled the public and showed how serious the connection was. The sickness not only put Pamela's physical health at risk, but also her emotional health, which is why she had to get treatment for years. It was even more clear that Pamela was hurt emotionally when she said she had thought about killing herself. She wrote in her later notebooks that she was suffering panic attacks, couldn't sleep, and was always scared. "Every day was a fight with myself," she wrote. Not only was the violence painful, but so was the recollection of Lee's jealousy and control. What used to be a passionate and interesting relationship has turned into a terrible lesson. Pamela has said many times that Tommy was her one and only genuine love, but she also says that it ruined her. The sentence "I fell in love blindly and paid with my youth" became a message that perfectly captured the turmoil in her heart. She was both devoted and tortured. Lee was still a part of Pamela's life after the divorce. They had to talk to each other for the sake of their 2 kids. But every time they did, it brought back a lot of memories that were hard to forget. Pamela even said that talking about the kids was like stabbing an old sore. In the public view, they were still a couple who had to be together, but in real life, the distance was unavoidable. Pamela had a tougher time getting rid of the impression of tragedy since she had to play the victim. Her acting career started to slow down, she had less and fewer film assignments, and she was in the headlines more often for her personal life than her professional life. People watched Pamela closely, from going to events to speaking in public. During this time, she was really confused and didn't feel like she belonged in the spotlight anymore. Pamela had 2 separate realities in her heart. One was that the love that had once burned had left behind offspring, and the other was that the same love had left behind many effects that could not be repaired right away. These 2 extremes made her feel bad and that she needed to find a way out. Even when everything seemed to fall apart, Pamela stayed strong and kept her children safe. She slowly took on her position as a mother again. This disaster led to quick marriages and people always moving around in the years that followed. And from there, she slowly came to terms with the fact that Tommy Lee's shadow would always be there, even though they had broken up. Pamela Anderson's marriage to Tommy Lee failed, and she went through a time of emotional experimentation that didn't work out. Every marriage after that was short, full of problems, and ended in failure, leaving a lady who was looking for something she had never found. Pamela married singer Kid Rock in 2006. The relationship got a lot of attention from the media because the rock star was so different from the TV celebrity. The wedding, which took place on a yacht in France, felt like a new beginning, but Pamela filed for divorce less than 4 months later. It was decided that the reason was because they couldn't get along because of their distinct lifestyles. The breakup brought her back into the public eye, but Pamela was still feeling hopeless within. After that, Pamela dated Rick Salomon, a well-known poker player. In 2007, they got married for the first time, but they immediately got it annulled after a few months. They decided to get married again in 2014. After being apart for a few years, but they broke up again. Pamela has been in the same relationship twice, and both times it ended very fast. This shows that she has never been able to stop making the same emotional choices over and over again. These efforts were like a desperate hunt for something to fill the hole left by Tommy Lee. However, the end effect was a string of failures. Pamela married Dan Hayhurst, a construction worker who resided with her on Vancouver Island, in 2020, during the pandemic. The wedding was held in her own yard. A lot of people thought Pamela had found peace because of this choice, but the marriage dissolved barely a year later. Pamela said that this was a quick choice she made since she was lonely at the time of social estrangement. Again, the scary past brought her back to a world that was no longer real. Pamela has remarked several times that her latter marriages were not based on real love. Instead, they were knee-jerk reactions, ways to fill a gap. She acknowledges that she couldn't reproduce the experience and that every time she tried, it just made her more tired. That confession plainly shows that she has been stuck in her search for commitment for a long time. Her 2 boys, Brandon and Dylan, are the only things that keep Pamela from going crazy, even if things have been hard. She spends a lot of time with her kids, keeping a careful eye on how they are doing in the fashion and entertainment professions. But Pamela has worked hard to be a protective mother to her kids so that they don't have to deal with the public's attention. This has helped her keep her personal life somewhat stable. But the misdirection was still clear. Pamela's private life was always in the news at the time. Instead of a picture of a famous actress, there were a lot of headlines about failed love affairs. Art endeavors stopped, and Pamela became known as a troubled woman. This truth made it extremely harder for her to get away from her past. The short-lived marriages left a distinct mark. Pamela understood that her attempts to find love were futile. She was a perfect example of someone who lost after a breakup because she always picked the wrong partner at the wrong moment. That incident, however, made Pamela see that the best way to heal is not to depend on others, but to go back to herself. She decided to live alone and keep to herself, putting her kids and her own freedom first. She didn't give up after each loss. Instead, they taught her harsh lessons that helped her see the reality. Every attempt to replace Tommy Lee simply made things worse. Pamela started to think about a new path that would help her get rid of the label that came with broken relationships and get back to her beliefs through art and making better choices. Rebirth via truth and beauty. Pamela Anderson started her effort to change herself by expressing her experience after years of bad relationships. She didn't stay quiet about what happened. Instead, she used art and media to talk about her history and take back control of her image. This was the moment that helped Pamela step out of the shadows and change how people saw her. Her memoir, Love Pamela, was out in 2023, which was a big deal. Pamela wrote a lot about her childhood popularity, her marriage to Tommy Lee, and the rough years that followed. This time, the voice came from her, not from someone else. The memoir rapidly became a big seller and helped Pamela get back to being a lady who was brave enough to confront the truth. The Netflix documentary Pamela, Love Story came out at the same time. It showed never-before-seen pictures and intimate items, which gave viewers a more honest view. Pamela used these two goods as the basis for changing her legacy. Pamela wasn't happy with just recounting her story again. She went back to Broadway in Chicago. She made a big splash when she came back to play Roxy Hart, a part that needed singing, dancing, and acting all at the same time. People saw Pamela as more than just a sex symbol. She was a genuine artist with amazing talent. Her success on Broadway showed that she could go past previous biases and make new employment prospects. The Last Showgirl, a movie she worked on, was another hit for her. Pamela got a lot of praise and accolades for this role at big awards shows. She remarked afterwards that each piece of art is like a part of her rehabilitation. Pamela remarked in a promotional discussion that every time I see myself on film, I feel like I take off another layer of the past. The Last Showgirl not only signaling her homecoming, but it also demonstrated how strong she was in dealing with her past. Pamela kept getting notice in 2025 when she was in The Naked Gun. Even if it was a comedy for her, it was a chance to repair her mental wounds. Pamela said in an interview that working on the set helped her get her happiness and confidence back. Pamela's involvement in a big entertainment production demonstrated that she had fully returned to the artistic world and was no longer held back by her former biases. Pamela also uses everyday life to build new values, in addition to movies and theater. She started the TV show Pamela's Cooking with Love, which shows a regular woman in the kitchen sharing dishes and memories with the viewers. The show is known for being lighthearted, but Pamela also does a great job at combining food with lessons she's learned in life. This is clear proof that she is at peace and wants to share it with others. Pamela loves social events as much as she loves painting. She is a strong supporter of PETA and other groups that defend animals. She often calls for vegetarianism and protecting the environment. Pamela is getting more attention now that she is doing humanitarian work instead of just entertaining work. This helps her new image as a grown-up, responsible woman with good values get stronger. A new picture is made by combining memoirs, documentaries, stage plays, movies, TV shows, and activism. Pamela Anderson is no longer known for sex recordings or scandalous marriages. Instead, she is known as a person who struggled to take back control of her life. Pamela stands out from the crowd because of her artistic accomplishments and her efforts to convey her own tale. She is not only a well-known person in the entertainment business, but she is also a great example of how art can help people heal. This path shows that even after failing, you can still get back up and change how you see your own worth. And from this base, Pamela keeps opening a new chapter where truth and art go hand in hand to show that she is still alive and well. Pamela Anderson, who is 58 years old, has stepped out of her own problems to define her legacy. After all the short-lived partnerships and the loud and stormy days, what the audience remembers is her strength to get through tough times and her ability to change herself. Her admission about her terrible marriage to Tommy Lee marked the end of one phase of her life and the start of another. Pamela's most important legacy is not her magazine covers or one-time TV gigs, but her bravery in facing the truth. Pamela opted to speak the whole truth and nothing but the truth, even though many individuals would rather stay quiet to protect their image. This deed made her a symbol of honesty and bravery. It showed that even mistakes and terrible memories can be dealt with if you talk about them. Can be the reason why people remember someone differently. Brandon and Dylan, her two children, are a big part of that legacy. Both have grown up in the public eye, yet they have stayed out of the media's way. Pamela has said several times that her children should learn from her mistakes and not do the same ones. Their growth is proof of Pamela's hard work as a mother, which has always been her top priority. However, she had a lot of emotional problems. Pamela has had an impact on a generation of young ladies, in addition to her family. She has become a role model for women who know how to take back control by publicly recognizing violence, admitting that blind love hurt her, and fiercely asserting her independence. The message is plain. A sad past doesn't have to be the end, it can be the start of a new life. Pamela also had an effect on how people saw famous people in the entertainment industry. She used to be seen as a stereotypical sex symbol, but today she shows that you can rebuild your career by being persistent, doing social activism through art, and expressing your opinion. This leaves behind a unique legacy, the picture of a lady who has the courage to rise above her own shadow. Pamela is 58 years old and lives a calm life on Vancouver Island, spending time with nature, family, reading, and creative work. This way of life shows how grown up she is and how she has found serenity after going through hard times. Her legacy is not only her memoirs, roles, and TV shows, but also the image of a person who has stayed strong through it all. Pamela Anderson sent a strong statement. Strength doesn't come from running away, it comes from being brave enough to speak the truth. Her terrible marriage to Tommy Lee was once the worst thing that had happened to her, but today it shows how strong she is. Pamela's worth is not only in the entertainment business, but also in the story of survival, where every loss makes her stronger. And that is the most important thing she leaves behind for the following generation. And that is the path that Pamela Anderson has taken. From the glamorous highs to the hard years, and finally, at the age of 58, she leaves behind a legacy of strength. Her tale shows us that everyone can make mistakes, but what important is how we get back up and keep going. If you appreciate this video and want to help us share more inspiring stories, don't forget to like it, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next video. And write a comment below about what you thought after seeing this remarkable trip.